You can mop up blood, you can scrub out brain matter if you use the right stuff. You can even get the stink of rot out of the drywall with enough chemicals and a good respirator, but you can't unsee a hole in the floor that shouldn't be there. You can't forget the way it breathes. I never planned to get into cleaning up after the dead, but life doesn't always ask what you planned. It started with debt, like a stupid amount of it. Medical bills from my dad before he passed, credit card nonsense I couldn't ignore, and rent that felt like it rose every 2 weeks. I was desperate. So when I saw an ad that said trauma scene cleaning tech, no experience needed, $28 starting, I clicked it without thinking. 2 weeks later, I was standing in a warehouse outside of town, getting trained on how to properly scoop dried bio out of a mattress without puking. They showed us real photos, real scenes, suicides, hoarding deaths, murders. They made it clear, this job wasn't for the faint-hearted. But I didn't flinch. I needed the money more than I needed to feel okay. The usual most jobs were bad but manageable. Car wreck cleanups, small apartments with suicides, OD victims in halfway houses, all sad, all gross, but they blurred together after a while. You wear your Tyvek suit, double glove up, pop on a respirator, and you just detach. You focus on the job. Remove the source, sanitize the surface, disinfect the air. Easy to say, not always easy to do. I thought I was getting used to it. Then we got the call for Maple Street. And that house reminded me that no matter how many scenes you've seen, there's always one that'll break you. It came in like any other job, middle of a rainy Wednesday. Dispatcher called us out to a 2-story home on the edge of town. Upscale neighborhood, quiet cul-de-sac. The file said unattended death. That usually meant someone passed, no one noticed for a while, and the body had cooked. It happens more than you think. I was paired with Jesse, a guy who'd been doing this longer than anyone should. Bald, smoked constantly, smelled like bleach and cigarettes. He was quiet, focused. Never cracked jokes like the younger techs. I liked that about him. On the drive, I asked how long the body had been in there. He checked the sheet. 2 weeks, he muttered. Neighbor called when the mail stacked up. Cops broke the door. Found him in the basement. That was the first flag. Basement. People don't usually go to their basements to die unless they're hiding from something or trying to make sure no one finds them. The house didn't look wrong at first. It looked normal. Pale blue paint, overgrown grass, mail stuffed in the box, curtains closed. Just another forgotten house in a nice neighborhood. But the second we stepped out of the van, I caught a whiff of it. That sweet rot smell. Heavy. Sticky. Not quite garbage, not quite meat. Just death. We suited up in the driveway. Tyvek suits, gloves, respirators, full kit. Jesse didn't say a word, just handed me the tools and started walking. The front door was unlocked. Cops must have left it that way after the welfare check. We pushed it open, and that was the second flag. Because the house wasn't just empty. It was quiet. Not like no one's home, quiet, but hollow. Like sound didn't want to stay there. Our footsteps didn't echo. The walls didn't creak. It felt like the whole place was holding its breath. We cleared the upstairs first. Nothing too crazy. Old furniture, dusty, signs of hoarding in the kitchen, stacked newspapers, canned food expired 10 years ago. It wasn't trashed, just frozen in time. There was no stink up here, not really. Just stale air and mildew. But the stairs to the basement? That's where the smell hit. It rolled up like a wave, thick and hot and full of that metallic death tang. I gagged behind my mask. Jesse didn't even flinch. He just flipped on his headlamp and started down the steps. I followed, and I swear to God, the deeper we went, the colder the air got. The basement was unfinished. Concrete walls, single bulb dangling from a wire, one rusty metal shelf in the corner. No windows, and in the middle, a tarp. Folded over something large, with a dark stain creeping out underneath. Jesse crouched beside it, peeled the corner back. I only saw it for a second before I turned away. It wasn't a full body anymore, more like what was left. 2 weeks of decomp in a damp basement will do that. Skin sloughed off, eyes gone, mouth open like it died screaming. The cops had clearly just zipped it up and left the rest to us. We got to work. We had a system. Jesse would lift and bag the remains. I'd start on the stain. It was massive, black and red and sticky, sunk into the concrete like it wanted to stay. I started scrubbing. Every so often I'd glance around the room. Something about it didn't feel right. There were deep scratches in the cement floor, almost like someone had tried to crawl toward the stairs. There were holes in the walls, not structural, just punctures. Random. Like someone stabbed the drywall again and again. And then there was the corner. The far corner of the basement had a square patch of flooring that looked newer, smoother, like it had been poured separately from the rest. It caught my eye, and I didn't know why, until I saw it move. There's a moment in every job where your brain tries to protect you. It tells you, this is normal. You've seen worse, keep working. But sometimes it whispers the wrong thing, and sometimes you listen. That corner in the basement, the one with the smoother patch of concrete, I saw it shift. Just a little. Not enough to call it movement, not enough to scream or panic, just a ripple, like pressure building under the surface. I froze, my scrubber still in my hand, one knee on the damp floor. "Jesse," I said through my mask. He didn't respond. He was at the top, working the body into a double bag, focused. I turned back. The patch wasn't moving anymore. Maybe it never was. Beneath the surface, I kept cleaning, slow, careful. But my eyes wouldn't leave that square patch. See, over time you learn to read spaces, especially basements. What water damage looks like, what a bad pour looks like, what cracks are natural and which ones mean something worse. And this patch wasn't natural. It was poured recently, maybe months ago, cleaner than the rest of the floor. No cracks, no staining, too smooth, too intentional. I felt it in my gut. Someone covered something up here, not like a storage hatch or a pipe. I mean something they didn't want found. That ripple I saw? That was the floor settling, breathing, reacting. I needed a distraction, something to snap me out of it. So I moved to the corner shelf. We always checked the surrounding area for personal effects, journals, meds, documents. We catalogued anything the family might want, or anything that might matter to the investigation. This shelf had nothing at first, just rust, a cracked bottle of bleach, a stack of mouldy rags. But behind that, stuffed in the far back, was a small black book. It wasn't a journal. No words inside, just pages of scribbles, lines, shapes, repeating circles drawn over and over until the paper tore. It didn't mean anything, but it didn't feel random. Some pages were soaked through with something brown, dried, flaky, blood probably, or worse. There was also a bucket tucked beside the shelf. I pulled it forward to look inside, empty. But it reeked. Not just rot, ammonia, copper, something acidic, like someone had been dissolving raw meat in it for weeks. I didn't hear Jesse come up behind me, but suddenly he was there, looming over my shoulder, voice low behind his mask. "Don't touch that." I jolted. "What?" He pointed at the floor, not the patch, the bucket. "That. Put it back." I didn't argue. His tone wasn't angry. It was cautious, like we'd crossed a line, like something about that bucket unsettled even him. I slid it back under the shelf and stood up. "Did you notice the floor?" I asked. He didn't look, just zipped up the last bag and said, "Finish the stain. We're almost done." But he was lying. I could see it in his face. He had noticed the floor. He just didn't want to talk about it. We loaded the body bags into the hazmat bins, bleached the drag marks, sealed the tarp in plastic, typical steps, going through the motions. But as we wrapped up, I heard something, a dull thump from below. The house was already quiet, too quiet, so any noise stood out. I stopped moving, waited, Thump. This time, Jesse heard it too. He looked at the floor, then at me, and without saying a word, he turned and walked upstairs. I should have followed him, should have packed up and left, but I couldn't. Not yet. I was fixated on that patch, that newer concrete, that weird ripple. So I knelt beside it, ran my gloved hand across it, cold, even in the warmth of the house. No visible cracks, no tools nearby, just smooth, pale cement like a lid on a box. And then I felt it. A tiny shift. Not enough to lift or crack, just enough to pulse, like something underneath was adjusting, settling, or waiting. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I went back to the van, grabbed a pry bar and a hammer, told myself I just needed to see, just one small corner, one tap, one lift. Then I'd put it back, clean up and leave. I cracked the edge, just a little. The second I did, the smell hit me again, worse than before. Concentrated, like whatever had been buried under that slab had been rotting in silence for years. And then I heard the sound again. But this time it wasn't a thump. It was a gurgle. He must have heard it too. Jesse came barreling down the stairs, eyes wide, gloves still on, bleach on his boots. "What the hell did you do?" he snapped. I thought maybe something was under there." He yanked the tools out of my hand. "You don't dig in houses like this," he said. I stared at him. Why? His voice dropped to a whisper. Because if they poured fresh concrete, they wanted it to stay that way. And that's when he told me something I'll never forget. This house wasn't our first call. I stared at Jesse after he said it. This house wasn't our first call. He wasn't being dramatic, wasn't trying to scare me. He said it like a mechanic diagnosing a busted engine. Quiet, firm, final. "You mean there was another job here before?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just looked at the patch of concrete I'd cracked open, not wide, barely a chip, but the smell leaking out of it was awful now. Sharp and sour like bile and rust. "Not a job," he finally said. "Just a call. About a year ago. Same address." Jesse told me he wasn't on the first crew that came here, but he knew the guys who were. The call came through as a welfare check that turned into a possible suicide. Neighbors hadn't seen the guy living here in a few weeks. Mail piled up. Car sat in the same spot every day. Standard red flags. Cops broke in, found the place empty. No body, no signs of struggle. Just a mattress on the floor, one light bulb in the ceiling, and a trail of blood that led to the basement, and then stopped. No cleanup needed back then. Just photos. Evidence collection. The whole thing got tagged as inconclusive. No one ever followed up. The man was never found. "A full year," Jesse muttered, like he couldn't believe it himself. "And now," he said, pointing toward the tarp-wrapped body upstairs, "this guy dies here too. Same address, different name." That clicked something in my head. Was it the same owner? He shook his head. Different. New tenant. Guy who just died bought the place 4 months ago. Paid cash. I just stood there, cold creeping up my spine even though it was warm outside. "So what?" I asked. "Coincidence?" Jesse gave me a look like I was a child. "There's no such thing in this line of work." What was in the hole? I couldn't stop thinking about the smell coming out of that cracked patch. See, there are layers to rot. There's rot, you understand. Food, waste, even blood. And then there's the kind that smells like secrets. That patch stank like something that shouldn't have been there. Not just a body. Something left behind. I was stupid. I admit that now. While Jesse was upstairs on a call, I went back to it. This time I pulled the chip wider, just a little. I needed to see. I didn't know why. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was more like a pull. Like the house wanted me to. I scraped the edge, concrete flaked up. Underneath, dirt, just dry, compacted earth. And in that dirt, I swear to you, was a fingernail. What's left in soil, it wasn't attached to anything, just loose, yellowed, cracked, with a sliver of skin still stuck to the back. I picked it up with a tweezer, bagged it, marked it, and right after I did, I noticed more. Little things in the dirt, threads of cloth, a tooth, maybe a bone shard, it was hard to tell. All of it crammed under that layer of concrete like someone tried to compress a human life into a shoebox. And whoever did it, they weren't in a hurry. They didn't just bury a body, they arranged it. I was about to cool Jessie down again when I noticed something else. Behind the shelf where I'd found the book, there was a panel, not like drywall or wood. It was part of the wall, but it had been cut, rough edges, almost hidden behind old paint and rust. I pressed on it. It gave slightly. Behind it, a crawl space. No light, no air movement, just cold. I shouldn't have gone in, but this job messes with your instincts. It turns nope into maybe, and maybe into just a peek. I crawled inside. That's what it felt like, a nest. The crawl space opened into a wider section under the floorboards, maybe 10 feet across, dirt floor, spider webs everywhere, and in the center, a mound. It was made of clothes, torn ones, different sizes, old, decayed, adult shirts, children's socks, a single sneaker, and in the center, surrounded by the fabric, was a stack of Polaroids, not hidden, just waiting. I flipped through them. No dates, no names, no captions, just faces. Dozens of them, some smiling, some asleep and scared, all in that same basement, that same concrete wall in the background. Some of them matched the body upstairs, others didn't, but they all looked like they'd been here, and none of them ever left. I must have been down there too long, because Jessie finally stormed in yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" I crawled out, clutching the stack of photos. He saw them and went pale. You shouldn't have found those. That sentence messed me up. Not where did those come from, not what are those, but you shouldn't have found those. Like he already knew they were there. Like he knew this house had layers we weren't supposed to peel back. He made me seal up the hole, put the shelf back, tape over the cracked concrete, wipe everything clean. No report filed on the Polaroids. No mention of the crawl space. The fingernail? I slipped it into an envelope and hid it in my glove box. Still don't know why. We left the house by sundown. Didn't say a word on the drive back, but I couldn't stop thinking how many people lived in that house, how many died there, and how many got buried the wrong way. I didn't sleep that night, not even close. I laid in bed with my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, running every single second of that job through my head on loop. The photos, the crawl space, that mound, the way Jessie shut it all down like it was normal, like this happened all the time. And maybe, for him, it did. Around 2 in the morning, I heard it. Click, just one, sharp sound, like a Polaroid shutter. I sat up immediately, looked around, nothing in the room, no lights on, no movement, just silence. But I know what I heard. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my brain playing tricks. It was a click, real as anything. And when I reached over to grab my phone, the screen was already lit up. Camera app open. I didn't open it. I hadn't even touched the screen. That messed with me worse than anything. 3 days later. We didn't get called back to that house. Not right away. But something weird started happening. Something that had never happened in all the years I'd been doing this work. I started forgetting things. Not small stuff, not where did I put my keys, or what was I going to say. Big stuff. Dangerous stuff. One night I left my truck running outside the grocery store for 40 minutes, keys in the ignition, full tank, door unlocked. Another day I left an ammonia sprayer open in the back of the van and nearly gassed myself when I opened the door. Jessie noticed. "Man, you're slipping," he said. I nodded, but I didn't tell him the truth. I didn't tell him that I'd been waking up every night at 2:13 a.m. sharp. Drenched in sweat, heart hammering, convinced someone was in the room with me. But when I'd flip on the light, camera app open, Every single time. I checked the glove box. I almost forgot about the fingernail, but when I remembered it, something told me I had to check. It was gone. Not the envelope, just the nail. That little brittle curve of yellowed keratin was missing, like it had crawled out, or someone had come for it. I still don't know which idea scares me more. We were in the van on the way to a different job when Jesse spoke up. He never talks during drives, usually just chews sunflower seeds and listens to old rock. But this time he just said, "You ever wonder how many of them don't get found?" I didn't answer. He continued like he'd been holding it in too long. "I'm not talking about bodies. I'm talking about what's left. The residue. You think we're cleaning all of it?" Still, I didn't respond. Then he turned to me, real serious. "You ever scrub a wall and feel like it's scrubbing back?" That one got me. I just nodded. Once, and I swear he looked relieved, like finally someone else had seen it. The call came back in on a Thursday. Different dispatcher, different voice, but same address. "Need a follow-up." That's all they said. We weren't supposed to get it. We shouldn't have. But somehow, the job landed in our queue again, and Jesse didn't even blink. "Let's go," he said, like it was a coffee run. I didn't want to. Every inch of my brain was screaming no, but I couldn't say it. I didn't want to look weak. I didn't want him to think I couldn't handle it. So I got in the van, and we drove back. It was clean. That's the first thing I noticed. The house, clean, spotless, walls painted, carpet replaced, windows polished. Even the air smelled like fresh linen. Jesse looked confused. This can't be right, but it was. Same number, same place. I looked around, stunned. Even the concrete patch I'd cracked had been resealed, smoother than before, like it'd never been touched. There was even furniture now. Not cheap rentals. Real stuff. Leather, wood, plants. I checked the mailbox. New name on it. No forwarding address for the old one. The woman. She answered the door like we were pizza delivery. "Oh, you must be the cleaners," she smiled. "You're a little early." We both blinked. She waved us in without hesitation. "I just bought this place, couple weeks ago. Beautiful, isn't it?" It took everything in me not to just leave. But Jesse? Jesse stepped right in. She led us to the upstairs bathroom, said there was a weird dark patch behind the tub tiles. Thought it might be mold. Asked if we could take a look. I stepped inside, and instantly I felt it. Like the house had leaned closer, like it recognized me. The tile wasn't moldy, it was bleeding, a faint, slow drip, red, from a grout line at eye level. The woman hadn't noticed. I turned around to tell Jesse, but he was gone. And the woman? Gone too. Alone again. I was alone in the bathroom. The air was thick. The mirror fogged, even though the water wasn't running. And in the mirror, behind me, was a figure. Not a person, just an outline, like a void shaped like a man. It wasn't moving, just there. And in its hand, a Polaroid camera. I don't remember leaving the bathroom. No, really, I don't. 1 second I was staring at that reflection, the figure holding the camera, and the next I was standing in the front yard, sunlight on my face, truck running. Jesse in the driver's seat like he'd been waiting. "You good?" he asked like nothing happened. I didn't answer. I just climbed in, shut the door and sat there while my hands trembled in my lap. He lit a cigarette and cracked the window. "You saw it, didn't you?" That was all he said. Didn't say what it was. Didn't explain anything. He just knew I had seen something I wasn't supposed to. "I should have warned you," he added, blowing smoke out of the side of his mouth. "That house, it's not the first time it's come back around." I turned my head. "What do you mean, come back around?" He didn't look at me, just flicked ash and said, "Let's get out of here." Something was in me. That night, I didn't even bother pretending I could sleep. I just laid in bed with the lights on, staring at the crack in my ceiling, thinking about that wall, the one that bled when no one else could see it. Thinking about the mirror, about the void figure, the camera, and thinking about Jesse. How calm he was, how used to this he seemed. But it wasn't just thoughts that kept me up. It was a feeling, like something was inside me, like I'd brought something back from that house, like it had hooked into the base of my neck and was just waiting. Every time I blinked too slow, I'd see that flash, that click. 3 days passed before I went back. I didn't tell Jesse, didn't tell anyone, but I couldn't leave it alone. That bathroom wall, it wasn't done with me. It was alive in my head, pulsing behind my eyes like a trapped heartbeat. So I drove back, parked 2 streets down, walked up the alley, slipped into the backyard just after sunset. No lights on, no car in the driveway, no voices inside. I broke in through the back door like I'd done it 100 times before, because I had. Back in the bathroom. It looked normal, no red, no dripping, no mirror fog, but I knew where it was, right where the grout line had bled. I reached up, ran my hand along the tile, nothing. Then I pressed, harder, and I swear to God, the tile pulsed like skin, like it was breathing. So I grabbed a wrench from under the sink and started swinging, not gentle, not surgical. I was swinging like I needed it dead. Tile cracked, then shattered. Behind it, not a pipe, not mold. Wood paneling, old, rotten, and behind that, a cavity. What was inside? It took everything I had to pull the panel loose, but I did. Behind it, wedged deep in a narrow gap between the studs, were objects, not evidence bags, not bones, photos, hundreds of them, jammed in like insulation, Polaroids, all the same size, faces, mostly, some with names, some without. Some looked alive, others didn't. I dug deeper, yanking them out, my heart trying to beat through my teeth, my hands covered in splinters, and then I found the one that made me drop everything. A photo of me, taken from outside my window. I was sleeping. And then I heard it. Right behind me. I turned around, swinging the wrench wildly, but there was nothing there. Just an empty, busted-up bathroom and a pile of Polaroids on the floor. But something had changed. The air. It was thicker now, like humidity, but wrong, like standing inside a sealed freezer full of spoiled meat. And I noticed it wasn't silent anymore. I could hear breathing, but not just one. A chorus of slow, dragging inhales, coming from behind the walls, like the house was full of lungs, and they were waking up. I took what I could. I didn't stay. I couldn't. I grabbed a handful of the Polaroids, just enough to prove to myself I wasn't insane, and I ran. Didn't close the hole in the wall, didn't shut the door, didn't even lock up behind me. I just ran until I was in my truck, driving with shaking hands and blood on my palms from the splinters. I didn't stop until I was back at my place. Jesse was waiting. He was on my porch. No warning, no message, no call, just sitting there, flipping through a Zippo lighter. When I parked, he stood up slow. "You opened the wall, didn't you?" he asked. I didn't answer. He already knew. "You weren't supposed to go back there," he said, voice low. "You weren't supposed to see." I stepped onto the porch, held out the Polaroids. I saw everything. He didn't even flinch. "You need to burn those." Then he paused. "And not just the pictures." I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I sat on the edge of my bed with the Polaroids spread out on the floor in front of me. My eyes flicked from one face to the next. Some of them were looking into the lens. Some of them were blurred, like they were trying to move. All of them had that same offness, like whoever took the photos didn't care about lighting, framing, or whether the subject was even human anymore. And right in the middle of the pile, me. Curled up in bed, face slack, one arm over my chest, taken from outside my bedroom window. There were no footprints, no signs of forced entry, nothing on my security cam. But that photo existed, and I had no idea how long ago it had been taken. Jesse didn't flinch. We sat in my living room, both of us hunched forward like we were waiting for a bomb to go off. I offered him a beer. He took it but didn't open it. "You want to explain?" I finally asked. "You said the house came back around. What the hell does that mean?" He didn't look at me when he answered. He looked at the wall, like he could see through it. "That place?" he said. "It's not a house. Not really. It's a node, a point of memory." He saw the way I looked at him and clarified. "Don't think in ghost terms. It's not haunted. It's infected. Some houses just absorb. Stuff sticks to them. Death, misery, obsession. People bleed into the structure, sometimes literally, and sometimes they leave parts of themselves behind." I was silent, and when the house fills up, when it's got enough. He finally looked at me. It empties itself, usually with violence. "How do you know all this?" He took a long drink from the beer he hadn't wanted before. "Because I lived in a house like that." Dead silence. He sat back, ran a hand over his shaved head, and stared at the ceiling like he was looking at something far above both of us. "I was 16, foster kid, got placed with this woman named Maggie, lived alone in a 2-story in the middle of damn nowhere. First few weeks were fine. She was nice, too nice, like fake smile plastered on nice." His voice dropped. "Then she started locking her bedroom door, not at night, during the day, said I couldn't go near it." I didn't say anything. "And one night," he continued, "I heard scratching on the other side of her door. I thought she had a dog, but when I looked through the keyhole..." He trailed off. "Never mind, doesn't matter. What matters is she disappeared, vanished. I woke up, door was open, house was cold, and her room was empty. No trace, just this weird smell, like photochemicals and blood." He finally looked back at me. "You want to know what I found in the wall 3 years later?" I nodded slowly. He pointed to my Polaroids on the floor. "Exactly that." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a ragged, spiral-bound notebook, tossed it onto the table in front of me. The cover was stained, pages warped, but it was packed, full of scribbles, sketches, addresses, names. Jesse's rules, his burn book. "Rule number 1. If the house has no smell, leave immediately. Rule number 2. Never clean alone, unless you want to be part of the scene. Rule number 3. Don't trust what you see in mirrors. Rule number 4. Don't bring anything home. Not a coin, not a nail, not even a smell. Rule number 5. If you dream about the house, you're already infected." There were dozens more. This wasn't just a guide for cleaning. It was a guide for surviving places like that house. We made a plan. Jesse flipped through my Polaroids. His face hardened when he got to mine. "This is bad," he said. "If it's watching you now, it's feeding." "On what?" He didn't answer. "We need to go back," I said. "You said burn everything, right?" He nodded once. "But not just the pictures," he said. "Then what?" "The insulation, the wood, the drywall, the camera, if we find it, every single thing behind that bathroom wall. We have to erase what's left of whoever lived there, because right now, they're still inside." My mouth went dry. "When do we do it?" He looked out the window. "Tomorrow night, midnight, less traffic, less questions." Next night, we pulled up to the curb and killed the lights. No moon, just clouds and cold wind. The whole street felt like it was holding its breath. We slipped in through the back again. No alarms, no sound. Everything looked the same, but wrong. Dust was thicker, air was colder, and that humming, that low vibration in the walls, was stronger than before. Like the house was excited. We brought accelerant, gloves, rags, gasoline in a metal can. We had one job: burn the cavity behind the bathroom wall and pray the fire didn't spread to the neighbor's place. I went first. I crouched by the broken tiles and reached into the gap. My fingers scraped along damp wood and shredded insulation. More Polaroids, still warm, fresh. I froze. Some of the new ones weren't just photos of people. They were photos of me and Jesse, walking up the steps, standing in the hallway, entering the bathroom. They had timestamps, minutes ago, And at the back of the cavity, stuck to a stud with a rusty nail, was an old point-and-shoot camera. Still flashing, still clicking. It wasn't plugged in, but it was still taking photos. We set the fire. Jesse didn't hesitate. He poured gasoline into the gap, splashing the camera, the photos, the back of the cavity. Then he flicked the Zippo and dropped it. The whoosh was instant. A small fire contained to the wall but angry, like it didn't want to die quietly. The heat hit our faces. The smell was thick and chemical, and behind the flames we heard it. A long, dragging sound, like fingernails sliding across wood. It started in the wall and ended in the pipes, like something retreating, like something losing its grip. We didn't wait. We were out before the smoke alarms could wake the block. The fire wouldn't spread, not with the cavity sealed and the tiles smashed in. We left nothing behind, except maybe whatever had been watching us. We didn't speak until we were a mile away. Jesse finally said, "Next time we clean a house?" I looked over. He smiled for the first time. "You wear the body cam." The fire was supposed to be the end. It wasn't. It was the beginning of something worse. Because when you burn something like that, it doesn't die. It just relocates. And sometimes it follows the smoke. The first sign was the dream. I woke up on the floor next to my bed. Not in it. Next to it. Blanket tangled around my legs. My shirt soaked in sweat. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember lying down. What I do remember is the dream. I was back in the house, but not the one Jesse and I cleaned. No, this version had changed. Stretched. Warped. The hallway was longer. The wallpaper peeled itself back in slow strips. The pictures on the wall had moving eyes, not in a cartoony way, but like they were trying to see me better. And the bathroom? It had no door, only darkness. Inside that dark I heard clicking, Polaroid flashes over and over, faster and faster, until one of them flashed right in front of me, and I saw my own face, half melted, eyes black and dripping down my cheeks like wax. That's when I woke up. The second sign was the smell. Cleaning chemicals, bleach, mostly, mixed with a hint of something else. Something coppery. I hadn't used bleach in a week. I checked my kitchen, my bathroom, even under the sink. Nothing. The smell didn't have a source. It was just there, like the house had let me borrow a piece of itself. I called Jesse. He didn't answer. Voicemail. I left a message. "Something's not right, man. I think we stirred up more than we buried." Didn't hear back for 2 days. When he finally called, his voice was hoarse and low. "You smell it too?" he asked. "Yeah." "You dream yet?" I swallowed. "Yeah." Silence. Then he said, "We didn't burn it fast enough." The stain that wouldn't leave. I started noticing small things around my place. A smudge on my wall, not big but shaped like a handprint, right above my couch. I wiped it off with bleach. It came back the next day. A light bulb in my bathroom started flickering. I replaced it. The new one started buzzing, then dimmed to this low orange glow, like a photo lab. And then, the worst part, I found a new Polaroid tucked under my keyboard. This one showed me, sitting at my desk, looking confused. It had been taken from inside the apartment. Jesse's return. He showed up at my place unannounced. Same backpack, same grim face. Looked like he hadn't slept since the fire. He dropped the bag on my floor and said, "We have to disinfect." "Disinfect what?" "You." He wasn't kidding. Out came a small blacklight, a pocket Geiger counter, a bag of strange powder he wouldn't explain. "I've seen this before," he said, "only once. Whatever was in that house, it wants a new anchor. You're it." I laughed. Then I saw he wasn't smiling. "I'm serious. And if we don't cut this off now, it'll start building a new nest. Here, in you." He had new rules now. Jesse's rule number 16, once you burn the site, burn your clothes too. Jesse's rule number 21, dreams are the infection's playground. Never fall asleep without a loud environment. Jesse's rule number 27, if the photos keep coming, start checking the negatives of your thoughts. That last one hit hard. Because by now, the photos had stopped showing just me. They were showing people I was thinking about. My sister, my old boss, a guy I passed on the street and wondered if he was following me. Every time I obsessed over someone, even a little, the camera responded. One night, I came home from the grocery store and my front door was cracked open. Jessie had warned me, if the door's open but there's no sign of entry, don't go inside, it's bait. But I went in anyway. The apartment was dark, still, too still. I walked past the threshold, held my breath and flipped the light switch. Click. Nothing. I kept walking. And there it was, lying in the middle of the floor, another photo. This one wasn't of me. It was of Jessie. Standing in his kitchen, shirtless. Holding a lighter. It had been taken from behind, like someone was right next to him. And on the back, in jagged handwriting, "He's next!" I drove all night, didn't pack, didn't lock up, just left. I found Jessie crashing in a motel 2 hours out. Tiny room, peeling wallpaper, buzzing fridge. He let me in without a word. I handed him the photo. He stared at it for a long time, then tore it in half. "That won't stop it," I said. "No," he replied, "but it pisses it off." We sat on the edge of the motel bed and wrote down everything we could remember about the house. The exact address, date of the job, who hired us, what we found. Jessie suggested we send it to someone. Archive it, make it public, but I knew better. Some places want you to talk about them. It feeds them. Instead, we made a pact. No digital records, no names, no photos, just memory and rules. The last rule. Jessie gave me one final addition to the burn book. Rule number 31. If the house starts visiting you, burn your mind clean. I asked what that meant. He said, forget it, or pretend to. That's the only way to stop feeding it. Will it go away? No, he stood up and opened the window. But if you starve it long enough, it might move on to someone else. He looked out at the trees, and pray they don't write stories. You ever try to forget something on purpose? Not just ignore it, but rip it out of your head, root and stem, and pretend it never lived there? It doesn't work. Not really. All it does is bury it deeper, like a landmine in the dirt. And if you're unlucky like me, you step on it again one day, without meaning to. It happened 3 weeks after I left Jessie's motel. I was driving aimlessly, keeping my distance from anywhere familiar. One hand on the wheel, one fiddling with the dial. I didn't want music, just noise. I landed on some late-night talk show. Real low budget, no intro, just a tired-sounding guy reading from emails. He started one that stopped my heart cold. This one's from an anonymous cleanup tech in the Midwest. 3 deaths. All indoors, bathroom mostly. None of them made sense. The walls were breathing and the photos kept showing up. I changed the station so fast I nearly broke the dial, but the damage was done. It knew I was listening. I started finding them again, at first just one, in a diner bathroom. Taped to the mirror, it showed a toilet, no blood, just a little trail of brown water spiraling into the drain. Then another, under my motel bed, this one of my face, sleeping sideways, mouth open. I hadn't given it anything. I hadn't spoken its name. I hadn't even let myself think about the house. But that's the trick. It doesn't need your words anymore. It just needs your attention. I drove back to Jessie's new spot. He'd moved again, deeper into nowhere, almost off-grid. When I found him, he looked 10 pounds lighter and 10 years older. He didn't even ask how I found him, just said, "You brought it back." I didn't mean to. He nodded, like that didn't matter. None of us do. His room smelled like antiseptic and coffee grounds. There were scribbles all over the walls, phrases repeated a dozen times, some in Latin, some just one word. Forget, forget, forget. He was trying to erase it manually. Didn't work. Static in the mind. You know what's worse than hearing something in the walls? Hearing something in your thoughts. It's like static. Not quite words, not quite sound, Just a pressure in your head that gets louder every time you remember something about that house. I started blacking out for short periods. A few minutes at first, then hours. I'd come to and find Polaroids taped to my own chest. One had me standing in a gas station, pointing. Another had my hands inside a sink full of something red. I didn't remember taking those photos, but they remembered me. Jesse came up with a plan. If memory was the anchor, we had to destroy the chain. Sleep deprivation, hallucinogens, sensory flooding, whatever it takes, he said. He hooked us up to headphones, blasting white noise, blindfolds, strobe lights, everything short of full anesthesia. We sat like that for hours, trying to erase the sequence of memories that led back to the house. It almost worked, until we both woke up with a fresh Polaroid on the motel floor. It showed us sitting there, blindfolded, strapped in, taken from inside the room. Jesse pulled me aside the next day. "There's something I didn't tell you." Of course there was. The guy who called us about the house. Yeah? I don't think he was real. I blinked. What? I checked his number later. It wasn't a person. It was static. It left no trace, no call history. I only remembered it happened. And the client? There was no client. He looked down at his arm where one of the photos had somehow stuck to his skin like a brand. I think the house hired us. That's when everything started collapsing. The dreams, the smells, the flickering lights, they all got worse. Reality got thin. We started seeing doubles of ourselves. Brief flashes in mirrors or glass. Versions of us already inside the house, waiting. The house had stopped being a location. It was a process. It found us. It wrapped itself around our careers, our habits, our routine. The gloves, the bleach, the cameras. It trained us to be good hosts. Jesse made the call. "We go back one more time." "You serious?" he nodded. "We have to clean ourselves." I didn't understand what that meant until I saw the supplies. A shovel, a crowbar, a backpack full of lye, no more gloves, no more masks. We weren't protecting ourselves anymore. We were giving ourselves over. You don't pack light when you're planning to disappear, but you also don't bring anything you want to keep. Jesse and I emptied our wallets, burned our phones, left behind clothes, IDs, anything with our names. It felt like we were checking out of life. Only thing we took was the gear, and the one photo that showed both of us staring at something we couldn't see. The route back. We didn't use GPS. We didn't need to. The path was wired into our heads now. That place, that event, it wasn't coordinates anymore. It was directional memory. Like how a moth flies toward flame. Every back road felt familiar. Every stretch of trees whispered with things we forgot. At one point, Jesse pulled over and just sat there, silent. I asked what was wrong. He pointed out the windshield. "There's no road," he said, but we were driving on it. It wasn't a house this time. That was the first thing I noticed. There were no walls, no doors, just the layout of a place. Like the house had been turned inside out, its rooms sketched into dirt, its corridors traced with rotted boards and bleach stains. It looked like a chalk outline of a crime scene that spanned the size of a football field, and the Polaroids were everywhere. Pinned to trees, nailed to fence posts, hung from string like party lights, all of them watching us. We split up. I went to the area that had once been the kitchen. Jesse took what used to be the basement. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. We had one job, erase the trace. That meant burning what we remembered. We each carried a journal, our personal notes, sketches, logs, every case, every photo, every detail that connected back to that job. I dumped mine in the fire pit. Jesse poured lye over his, then set it alight. And for a second, I felt it leave me. Like a weight I didn't know I carried had finally unclenched from my brain. But then, the scream. Not from Jesse, not from me, from the hole in the ground, the one where the bathroom used to be. It was deep now, much deeper than it should have been, and from inside it something howled, not like an animal, not like a person. It sounded like everything we never said out loud. And Jessie looked at me and said the last thing I expected. We left something in there. I tied a rope around the old toilet pipe, used it to lower myself in. The walls weren't made of dirt, they were made of memories. Peeled wallpaper with our names scratched in, mildew shaped like the initials of people we cleaned up after. Even the air was thick with old bleach and newer blood. At the bottom I found a door, not attached to anything, just standing there. It wasn't wood. It was Polaroids, layered, glued, thousands of them. Faces, rooms, sinks, ovens, hands, and in the middle, a photo of me holding the door open. What was behind it? There was no light beyond it, only replays. Not like flashbacks, more like recreations. I saw Jessie's face the first time we opened that bathroom door. I saw mine when I lied and said I was fine. I saw the corpse that looked like it had melted, the one I tried to forget. And worst of all, I saw the choice. We were never hired. We chose to go in. We saw the signs, the first phone call, the weird address, the lack of paperwork, and we went anyway. Not because it was our job, because we were already broken. When I came back up, Jessie wasn't there, just the crowbar. And one last photo. Me, standing here, looking confused. It was dated tomorrow, and written on the back in Jessie's handwriting, "You're the last one. Clean it all." I stayed. For hours, days maybe. I don't remember eating or sleeping. I just kept burning, digging, tearing down every trace. Polaroid after Polaroid, I smashed them, burned them, ripped them to bits, until they stopped showing up, until the memories got quiet. Not gone. Never gone. But faded. And that's when I knew the house wasn't real. Not anymore. We were. And we were the ones who made it what it was. I didn't leave right away. Once the house was gone, or whatever it had become, I stayed for a while. Not out of fear, out of confusion. There's no closure when your reality blurs like that. You don't just dust off your jeans and drive back to normal. You sit in the wreckage of what used to be your sanity and hope the pieces don't shift again. I never went back to the company, didn't even say goodbye. It wasn't just the job I left behind, it was the person who needed that job, the version of me who thought trauma was just part of the gig. That guy's gone now. And honestly, good riddance. Jesse, I found him again, 6 months later. He was working at a fishing shop in some small town I never even learned the name of. Looked like he hadn't touched bleach since the day we left. I didn't ask questions. Just walked in, nodded, bought a cheap pair of pliers and left. He followed me out a few minutes later, gave me a bag of jerky and said, "Take care of yourself, all right?" We never talked about it. Didn't have to. The box. I keep one thing now. Just one. A shoebox under my bed, taped shut, marked only with a red dot on the top. Inside, a piece of wall trim from the house. It's nothing special. No blood, no names, just wood. But it's the only thing I couldn't bring myself to destroy. It reminds me I'm not crazy, that it happened, that some stains go so deep not even fire can touch them. Why I'm telling you, you're probably wondering why I'm dumping this out now. Why, after all these years, I'm suddenly talking like a man with something to confess. And the truth is, I think I just want someone else to carry a little of the weight. Not all of it. Just enough so I don't have to be the only one who knows what it feels like to hold a stranger's jaw in your hands and try to piece it back together for a grieving family. Just enough so I don't forget that it's not normal. None of it was. And maybe if I say it out loud, you'll understand what I mean when I say, the worst messes aren't the ones you see. They're the ones you step into willingly, thinking you're just there to help, and realize too late that the cleanup crew isn't cleaning anything. They're burying themselves. The real ending. I don't dream about the house anymore, but I do dream about walking into rooms that weren't meant for me. Rooms full of blood, yes, but sometimes just rooms full of silence, of weight, of absence. And every time I wake up asking the same question, what part of this job did I do for them, and what part was I doing for me? I don't know. And maybe that's the most honest thing I can say. That's it. That's the story. No ghosts, no curses, just one house, two guys, and the kind of trauma you can't bleach out. You wanted a story that felt real. This is mine. Whether or not you believe it, that's on you. But I'll tell you one last thing. If you ever get the call to clean a house that feels off, ask who made the mess, and ask who benefits from you pretending it's just another job, because the scariest things I ever found weren't in bloodstains or bodies. They were in myself.